Welcome back to our cozy listening nook. In today's episode, we continue our journey with Love, Latte and Law, the charming story we began last time. If you missed the first episode, don't worry. Here's the link to catch up. As we dive into the next chapters, I'm knitting cozy goat hair socks for my daughter, embracing the winter chill here in Texas. So grab your knitting needles or just a warm cup of something delicious and let's get lost in the unfolding tale of Sarah's adventure from the bustling streets of New York to the heartwarming community of a small town. Ready? Let's turn the page together. Chapter 5, Beans of Justice, the Grand Opening. The morning sun rose over the quaint town, casting a golden hue on the freshly painted sign that read, Beans of Justice. Today was the day Sarah had been dreaming of and working towards, the grand opening of her coffee shop. Sarah stood behind the counter, her heart a mix of nerves and excitement. She had traded her crisp lawyer suits for a comfortable apron, her new armor in this brave venture. The smell of rich coffee beans and baked goods filled the air, a welcoming aroma that she hoped would draw the townsfolk in. As the clock struck 8, Sarah flipped the sign to open, and the first customers trickled in. A group of elderly ladies from the knitting club were first, their eyes scanning the modern decor and artisan pastries with a hint of skepticism. Well, it's certainly different, one murmured, eyeing a vegan muffin suspiciously. Sarah greeted them with a bright smile, determined to win them over. Welcome to Beans of Justice. Can I interest you in a freshly brewed cup and perhaps a blueberry muffin? Next came the local businessmen, accustomed to their usual chain coffee shop. They looked around, exchanging doubtful glances. Sarah overheard one comment. It's nice, but I doubt it can replace my morning espresso from Brewster's. Despite the mixed reactions, Sarah kept her spirits high, engaging with each customer, explaining her coffee selection and offering samples of her signature blend. Around mid-morning, the shop was buzzed with an unexpected crowd of young professionals and students drawn by the allure of specialty coffees and the cozy ambiance. Their lively chatter and laughter filled the room, contrasting with the earlier reserved skepticism. Sarah noticed Jake among the customers, his approving nod bolstering her confidence. He mingled with the townspeople, occasionally pointing out the finer details of the shop's design, his pride in his work evident. However, not all were impressed. A small group of local shop owners huddled in a corner, casting wary looks and whispering among themselves. Their apprehension about this new business, potentially outshining their own, was palpable. Despite these mixed reactions, Sarah remained undeterred. She remembered her grandmother Eleanor's words, "Change is often met with a resistance, but it's also an opportunity to grow." The sun was setting, the first day's sales exceeding Sarah's expectations. While some embraced the change, others remained doubtful. But one thing was clear, Beans of Justice had made its mark on the town. For Sarah, this was just the beginning of her journey, not just as a coffee shop owner, but as a pivotal part of this community. Chapter 6, Finding Her Footing. The early rays of dawn peeked through the windows of Beans of Justice, now in its second week of operation. Inside, Sarah moved with a newfound ease, the initial jitters of opening day replaced by a steady rhythm of brewing and serving. Adjusting to this new lifestyle wasn't without its challenges. Gone were the predictable days at the law firm. Now, each day brought its own surprises. Whether it was a finicky espresso machine or a sudden rush of customers, Sarah found herself constantly on her toes. Yet, She embraced these challenges with a resilience she never knew she had. This chapter of her life was more than just about running a coffee shop. It was about forging connections, building relationships with the people who were once strangers in this small town. One such connection was with Mrs. Henderson, who had quickly become a daily fixture, always occupying the same armchair by the window. Her visits were often accompanied by stories from her youth and pearls of wisdom which Sarah cherished. Then there was Tom, the local baker whose skepticism had turned into a warm friendship. He now supplied the shop with a variety of pastries, often experimenting with new flavors just for Sarah's shop. Their morning exchanges, once formal, were now filled with laughter and shared stories. The afternoons brought a younger crowd, students and freelancers who sought refuge in the cozy corners of the shop. Among them was Emily, a budding writer whose quiet demeanor was a stark contrast to her vibrant imagination. Sarah found a kindred spirit in Emily, and their conversations often veered from book recommendations to deep discussions about life's crossroads. As Sarah navigated through her daily tasks, she realized she was also navigating through the nuances of each relationship, understanding the roles these individuals played in her life and in the fabric of the town. The most unexpected of these relationships was with Jake. What had started as a professional interaction had blossomed into something more meaningful. He was often her sounding board, offering advice and a listening ear whenever the challenges of running a business seemed overwhelming. Sarah loved to sit quietly after closing hours, reflecting on the whirlwind of changes she had experienced. The once daunting task of adjusting to a new lifestyle now seemed like an exciting journey. Through the steam of her evening coffee, she smiled, a sense of belonging and contentment settling in her heart. Chapter 7: Unexpected Bonds. The cozy interior of Beans of Justice buzzed with the familiar hum of conversation and the clinking of coffee cups. As autumn painted the town in hues of orange and gold, Sarah found herself weaving deeper into the community's tapestry, forming bonds that she hadn't anticipated. One crisp morning, as Sarah was ironing pastries in the display case, Jake walked in, his smile brightening the room. He casually leaned on the counter, his ease reflecting a warmth that made Sarah's heart flutter. Their conversations, once centered around the coffee shop's renovations, had gradually shifted to shared interests and life philosophies. "I never took you for a jazz enthusiast," Sarah said, surprised as Jake recounted his love for the genre. "There's a lot you don't know about me," Jake replied with a playful wink. "Maybe I'll have to take you to a jazz club one of these days." Their banter was interrupted by Eleanor's arrival. Sarah's grandmother was a wellspring of wisdom and stories that fascinated not only Sarah, but also the other patrons. Eleanor, with her timeless elegance, had a way of making everyone feel at ease. "Remember, dear," Eleanor said to Sarah during a quiet moment, "it's the unexpected paths that lead to the most beautiful destinations. Don't be afraid to explore them." Eleanor's advice often came wrapped in tales from her own life, stories of love, loss, and the courage to start over. Her words had a way of putting things into perspective for Sarah, especially when doubts crept in. As the day progressed, Sarah found herself increasingly looking forward to these deeper conversations with Jake and the comforting stories from Eleanor. They were like anchors, steadying her in the new life she had chosen. One evening, as the shop was about to close and the last customer had left, Jake stayed back, helping Sarah clean up. They talked effortlessly, their conversation meandering from childhood memories to future aspirations. It was a connection that Sarah had not anticipated, yet it felt as natural as the changing seasons. Eleanor, who had been quietly knitting in her usual spot, looked up and smiled at the pair. "You know, the best bonds are often the ones that take us by surprise," she remarked, her eyes twinkling with a mix of wisdom and mischief. As Sarah locked up for the night, she couldn't help but feel grateful for these unexpected bonds. They were the threads that were slowly yet surely knitting her new life together in this small, vibrant community. Chapter 8. Brewing Tensions. As the leaves began to fall, signaling the deepening of autumn, a different kind of change was brewing in the small town, one that reached the doors of Beans of Justice. One chilly morning, the town's tranquil routine was disrupted by an animated discussion among a group of locals huddled in a corner of Sarah's coffee shop. Curious, Sarah edged closer, wiping down tables as she eavesdropped. "It's just not right what they're planning to do," grumbled Mr. Peterson, the local grocer. The group was discussing a proposed development project that threatened to alter the town's landscape and community spirit. A large corporation intended to build a shopping complex, which many feared would overshadow the town's small businesses. Sarah felt a twinge of unease. Her lawyer instincts kicked in, but she hesitated. She was new here, after all. Was it her place to get involved? Throughout the day, the topic seemed inescapable. Customers voiced their concerns, their voices a mix of anger and worry. Sarah listened, her mind racing. This was more than a local issue. It was about preserving the heart and soul of the community she was starting to call home. That evening, as Sarah sat with Eleanor, she expressed her doubts. "I want to help, Grandma, but I'm just a coffee shop owner now. What can I do?" Eleanor sipped her tea, her eyes thoughtful. "You're more than that, Sarah. You're a part of this town now, and sometimes standing up for what's right is more important than staying in the background." Sarah lay awake that night, her thoughts a whirlwind. She thought of the coffee shop, her sanctuary, and the townspeople who had welcomed her with open arms. Could she really stand by and watch as this dispute threatened to unravel the community fabric? The next day, Sarah noticed a subtle shift in the atmosphere of Beans of Justice. The usual cheerful banter was replaced by hushed tones and serious faces. The dispute had not only invaded the town's physical space, but had also crept into the emotional heart of its residents. Sarah knew she couldn't remain on the sidelines any longer. It was time to take a stand, not just for the town, but for herself. She was no longer just a former lawyer or a coffee shop owner. She was a member of this community, and its struggles were her own. As the shop closed for the day, Sarah made a decision. She would offer her skills and knowledge to help the town. It was a risk, stepping into the fray of a local dispute, but for the town that was becoming her home, it was a risk worth taking. Chapter 9. The Heart of the Town. In the heart of the small town, amidst the backdrop of autumn leaves and the constant hum of daily life, Sarah's decision to step into the town's dispute marked a pivotal moment. It wasn't just a stand for the community. It was a personal leap of faith, bridging her past and present. The local development issue had stirred a sense of injustice in Sarah, and she couldn't stand idly by. With a deep breath, she opened her old law books, the pages filled with notes and memories of her former life. It felt like reuniting with an old part of herself, one she had thought she left behind in the bustling streets of New York. Beans of Justice, already a communal hub, transformed into the command center for the town's resistance against the development project. Sarah organized meetings, offering her shop as a gathering place for discussion and planning. She listened, advised, and strategized, her legal expertise now serving a cause that was close to her heart. Her new role was met with a mix of admiration and surprise from the townspeople. They saw her dedication and were drawn to her passion. Sarah spent hours poring over legal documents, zoning laws, and environmental impact reports. She articulated complex legal points with clarity and simplicity, making the issues accessible to everyone. Her efforts went beyond the walls of her coffee shop. She visited local businesses, spoke with residents, and gathered support. Her approach was methodical, yet filled with a personal touch that resonated deeply with the people. As she delved deeper into the case, her confidence grew. She found herself at the forefront of community meetings, leading discussions with a poise that she had honed in courtrooms but never imagined using in this new life. Sarah's initiative started to weave a stronger sense of community. People who had never spoken up before shared their concerns and ideas. Her coffee shop buzzed with a new kind of energy, one that was fueled by a collective purpose. In this small town where every face was familiar and every story mattered, Sarah found her new calling. She was no longer just the owner of Beans of Justice. She was a beacon of hope, standing up for what she believed in and, in doing so, bringing the town together. Through her journey, Sarah realized that her legal expertise was not just a remnant of her past, but a powerful tool for making a difference in the world she now called home. As we conclude today's episode, having explored chapters 5 to 9 of Love, Latte, and Law, I hope you've enjoyed the twists and turns of Sarah's story. Alongside, I've made progress on a unique project, knitting socks with hand-spun goat down yarn for my daughter. It's been wonderful sharing this blend of captivating storytelling and intricate crafting with you. If you've enjoyed our session, please like and subscribe for more heartwarming stories and knitting adventures. Stay tuned for the next chapter and more knitting projects.